Welcome to a Passport podcast. Bridging the Gap, an intergenerational conversation. Hello, my name is Kirk Schwartz. I'm the program manager for Passport to Joy and Connection, and for this project, I was also the program host. This project brought 10 seniors together with 10 grade 8 students from Central Middle School here in Victoria. It was intended to contribute to an understanding dialogue between today's youth and our senior generation. The idea was to bring the generations together to talk and ask questions of each other, as a way to bridge the gap between the generations and as a way to start the conversation. We asked them to pretend to be radio reporters or podcast hosts. The seniors, of course, grew up listening to radio reporters. The youth understand and listen to podcast hosts. The roles are very similar, but the way the media works has changed over time. The opening topic was a school day, then and now, as a conversation starter. However, students and seniors were encouraged to ask any other questions that they could think of. For a detailed rundown of how we planned and put together this program, you can visit our Substack internet site at Passport to Joy and Connection, that's all one word, Passport to Joy and Connection.substack.com, and look for the article named Bridging the Gap. You will hear me talk or ask a few follow-up questions from time to time, but mostly you will hear the seniors and the youth interacting. Privacy concerns, especially for the youth, mean that only first names are used. The senior-youth pairs were seated at tables in the main hall of the James Bay New Horizons Centre. I went from table to table, pair to pair, with a microphone for 3 rounds of questions and answers. After a short coffee break between round 2 and round 3, we changed the format slightly at the suggestion of a trio of students. A question or two was put to the whole table and got a variety of answers and comments. Just before we start, I must extend Passport's gratitude to the teachers and principal at Central Middle School, and especially to Kim and Sherry Dixon and the volunteers at James Bay New Horizons. Without their very active support, this program would not have been possible. Okay, I think we're just about ready to start. I hope you guys have all managed to chat and get some interesting details of your partners in this podcast crime. I just want to make sure that you know that because you guys have been talking to each other, right? And it's kind of what they would call in a newsroom or in a podcast when they do a pre-interview. And the pre-interview means that you kind of have some of your questions set out so that you always have a fallback, so that you can always have another question. That's why I gave you some stuff to write on, right? And there are some questions in the back as well, in case you're in the back of your little mauve book there, just in case you're looking for some inspiration. Now, what might well happen as I go around and we do question, answer, and then I go to the next one, we'll do it in rounds. What might well happen is your mind will get tweaked by somebody else's question, and you'll go, and then you should feel free to ask that as your next question on the next round. Don't feel like you have to write something down and ask that question. That's not the point. It's there to help you, not to make you, not to slow down your creativity, not to keep you from thinking on your feet, right? And so we will be going around from round to round. At the very last question suggestion I had there was, on the questions was, could you tell me the story about, because you guys have been talking to each other and you know some of the stories, and if there was a story that somebody was telling you that you're really interested in, that's a fair question. You don't have to phrase it in any other way. You could just say, could you tell me the story about when you had to walk uphill to school 10 miles both ways or something like that. But that may be one of the things that's way different about then and now too. When I was young, I walked to school all the time from kindergarten, just about kindergarten on, from grade 1 on. Walked the streets quite safely. Although my mother tells the story of my first day that she let me walk alone. She followed me a block and a half behind in the car. But that's the way that went then. Things are different now. Final thing I want to say before we start is first names only, because we're going to make a podcast out of this. And so privacy, your first name is fine, but don't tell me anybody's last name, okay? Well, at least not on the microphone. Let's start over here with Walter.
My name's Walter, and I'm interviewing Vince. And Vince is an amazing specimen. He's a grade 8 student that looks like he's about 18. But in fact, Vince is 13. Seems to talk like he has life experiences for 33 years. Most mature 13-year-old I've ever run into. And so loves school, very active. And so.
What's your question for Vince?
For Vince, yes. So Vince, we did talk about some advice that I gave you. I only gave you one word of advice. What was that word of advice, Vince? Were you listening?
Yeah, I was. The word of advice was to do summer courses for university in France to learn more French and become fluent more. I think I'd have to see where I go for university if they offer it, and if I still want to learn French, but that sounds like nice and something to do.
Okay, Vincent, what's your question for Walter? What do you know about Walter that you think it would be interesting for everybody else to know?
That he did the semesters in France a bunch of times. You're also fluent in 5 languages, so that's interesting.
Well, four.
Okay, so Walter, do you want to tell us about learning French? Why you gave him that piece of advice?
Well, I did it very easily while I was teaching high school. Every summer, every July and August, I would head off to Europe, particularly France. I was fascinated with France, and I would spend a month taking French courses at various universities, which were very cheap at the time. For $500, you could take courses and stay in the residence at the University of Nice, which is a prime tourist spot. That was for an entire month for $500. That was ages ago. And then I would do bicycle touring for a month. So France was like heaven to me for the longest time until I joined the Euro market and things got very expensive. Then I moved on to Spain and learned Spanish. So yeah, that's how things go.
Okay, we'll be back in another round. So now you've got an idea of how things go. Who wants to ask the first question, make the first comment?
How do you describe your school before?
Rather straight-laced, rather stiff, rather unbending, compared to today. Well, there's much different things like a dress code for sure. People had to dress a certain way, behave a certain way. There were bells ringing, military style. You had to be in certain places at the right time. And of course, there was also corporal punishment. People were hit with a strap. So, different than I suspect it is today. My question? What's the best thing about Central Middle School, sorry?
There's nothing really good at school. So I'd say the best thing is probably friends and stuff, because it's not really fun without friends. Yeah. I think that's all, because there's nothing really fun at school.
What do you do with your friends?
Hang out and stuff and talk to them. Sometimes play, I think. And play sometimes sports with them and talk. Yeah.
My name's Caden. So Ed, how would you describe your military past? My military past. Well, it's a whole lot better than school, I'll tell you that much. It was exciting. I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. I had a lot of support in the home front, as they say. Yeah, I got to travel, I think, quite a bit. I got to experience a lot, which was more than I could say about school. School was a very vague memory to me. I don't recall the name of any of the teachers except for my grade 6 teacher, who actually turned out to be my cousin. But that's another story. Never been to a school reunion of any kind. I have only one name that I can remember from school, and he passed away a number of years ago. So yeah, so school is a very vague area in my memory. My question, I'm going to pull it from the question list. Do you get much homework?
Not really, but if you don't finish work, yeah, you have to do a lot of work at home, which sucks, and I hate it. It's terrible.
What kind of homework do you get?
Really anything that you just don't finish at school, or your teacher, or my teacher will just give us like lots of work just to do at home.
And what's the homework you hate the most?
All of it.
Do they give you time after or during school to catch up?
Sometimes, not always though.
So you probably noticed you don't have to stick to school days if you don't want to.
Hey, my name is Eddie. I have a question. Like, how is your school name? Your school name?
The school, when I was at your age, it was North Hollywood Junior High School, and here it is. I have the yearbook here of the year that was 75 years ago. It was put it this way, it wasn't very diverse. Okay, at the time I didn't notice it that much, but apparently no. But it was a very a white bread sort of school, very active in terms of athletics and that sort of thing. I met a lot of interesting people, though, and it was very useful for me in getting used to being in Southern California after it was a break for me from moving from Montreal, and it was quite a social and cultural break, which I had to adapt to. Well, my question is, you've been here now, Eddie, 2 years.
Yeah.
What do you consider the biggest challenge for you in getting adapted to your life here, especially at Central School?
Well, my first problem when I'm starting in the school is about the language, because when I'm starting the school, I didn't know nothing on English, and when I'm starting to do my classes, I don't understand nothing what my teacher said, and that's a really big problem for me, because sometimes I'm losing materials and some stuff.
Yeah, it's tough when you move here from another country. Where did you come from?
I come from Cuba. I've been in Cuba, like, I'm moving every time in Cuba. I'm moving from Veracruz to Havana. I'm living in Havana.
It's interesting. There are some seniors here who came with a different language and immigrated with different languages and had to do some adjusting. My father actually came to Canada when he was 15. And I heard some stories about how it was tough. Back in those days, you got into fights about it too. So, yeah.
What did your parents say about school?
What did my parents say about school? My parents weren't really active in paying attention to our grades. They just wanted us to pass. Yeah, but they didn't follow up to make sure I did my homework and that sort of stuff. So I got away with maybe too much. Yep.
Was your homework mandatory? Mandatory?
Yes, we had homework almost every night, and it was a couple of hours of homework. Yeah, my name's Daryl. Question for Isaiah is, I'm impressed with your goals. So what are your goals after graduating grade 8? And maybe where do you see yourself in 10 years?
After grade 8, I hope to make it pro inside baseball and play in the MLB. If that doesn't work, I'm probably going to do business marketing for some kind of sports team or like my own business. I'm going to work selling houses with my dad.
Hi, I'm Keisha, and today I'll be interviewing Charlie. And all I want to ask is, how was your school strict? And if they were, how strict were they?
Yeah, school was pretty strict in my day. There was a dress code. You couldn't wear blue jeans. Girls had to wear skirts or dresses. Boys couldn't turn their collars up. They worried about things like that would make you stand out and be different. You sort of were required to wear the same clothes as everybody else, so you were part of sort of a larger group. If you misbehaved, they would give you detentions where you had to write lines on the board. I will not misbehave 100 times, something like that. They had the strap, which they used fairly frequently in Central Junior High. There was one guy I remember who often strapped everybody in the class. He was very brutal, and bad memories for me from him. Anyway, it was, other than that, it was good. I enjoyed school. I enjoyed being there with my friends.
And even though there was somebody that was a teacher that was, as you put it, brutal, you still enjoyed school overall. And that's a fascinating thing with your friends and being at school.
So, Keisha, I'd like you to tell us about the things you like most about school. I understand you play volleyball. Maybe you want to tell us about that.
So the thing is, I like hanging out with my friends because, they make me happy and stuff. And I like learning because, it makes me smarter. And yeah.
Hello, I'm Matthew, and today I'm interviewing Liz. My question is, how long have you been here, and do you ever plan to leave, or are you going to stay for as long as you can?
How long have I been coming to the center? I've been coming to the center for about 12, 13 years, and will continue as long as it's like home to me. Yeah, it's a great center. It gives us lots of programs, lots of things to do. We come in, we know everybody. It's like family. So the center's very important to the community.
So you don't want to graduate?
No, I don't want to graduate. No. I'm never leaving on my own free will. I'm speaking with Matthew, a delightful young man who seems to have a wonderful family life. And when I asked him what he rated for school, he said it was 7. But I don't think he really likes school, but he likes to go to see his friends, the social aspect, and some of the teaching. So I'd like to ask you, do you have respect, and do you like your teachers?
Most of them.
Okay, so which teacher would stand out to you?
I don't really have a specific one, but there's some times that some teachers can be a little harsh.
What makes a good teacher?
Not always yelling for not much good of a reason.
So it's more verbal.
Kind of.
Then you've never been physically touched, or no. See, we were in school. We did we got strapped, hitting the knuckles and whatnot, and we could not use our left hand either. Even physically, we were confined. So.
What do you think of that she got wrapped on her knuckles and couldn't use her left hand and all that kind of stuff?
I don't think it's fair because people should learn how they need to learn.
I remember my school days, and my memory is so good that I remember the school principal. His name was Mr. Archibald, and I remember teachers' names who were so kind to me, Miss Smith and Miss McCrudden. The school name was Maisonneuve School in Montreal, Quebec. And someone over there was from Montreal, I think. He spoke of Montreal. I had 2 brothers and 1 sister, and we had to walk to school and home about 10 blocks. Mother was waiting for us, and she always had a piece of crusty bread and butter and molasses for us. Friends I remember, because my memory is good, my 2 friends that I remember when I was 10 years old, Marguerite Lamont and Olive Hammond. And I just want to ask the young lady, does she take music lessons?
I used to in elementary, but I don't anymore.
Why not?
It just got too hard and like too stressful, so I just quit. And like, I only did it for like my parents because I thought I'd make them happy, but like, no, I don't really like it anymore.
Okay, do you have a question for Margaret?
Oh yeah, my question is, what do you think about like modern technology?
I'm all for it. School has changed from when I went to school. It would be very hard for me to understand school today compared to when I was a young lady's age. So I wouldn't understand now what you're learning, what you're being taught. My education went up to 14 years, and then I went out and I worked and did housework. And at 18, I was able to go to a business college, and I learned spelling, typing, and bookkeeping. And then for the rest of my working life, I was a bookkeeper and loved it.
After I graduate high school, I'm gonna save up money because I'm gonna work at my dad's company and I'm gonna go travel the world.
Yes, yes. Do that at the beginning before you get settled and into a beautiful big company and work honestly and hard and earn a good salary. Yes, do that, travel.
I'm wondering what your favorite books were.
My favorite books?
Books, yeah.
My favorite books. At my age, I read the newspaper every day. I'll say I'm not a book person. I just read my newspaper.
Do you know how many years separate your age from Margaret's age? Have you figured it out?
I'm thinking like 90 to like 100, I think.
Does that seem a lot?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Josh, and I'm going to be interviewing Joanne. How were gender roles back then? Like, who were the, like how women were supposed to be like housekeepers and stuff?
Thank you, Josh. That's a great question. I think it's really dramatic how things have changed from your age to my age. When I was I was actually at Central Junior High, and at that time, as a young student, I was streamed into the secretarial school. And so I don't remember learning any math, any science, any art, but I was trained to be a secretary, so I learned shorthand and typing, because the goal for young girls in those days was solely to be a mother, well, hopefully first married and then a mother. And so it was a totally different role, and it was different for young fellows too, because they were under a lot of pressure. They had to learn math, they had to learn science, they had to have a career, they had to go out every day to a business or to the government and earn a living, because they had to support that family. So it was totally different roles for young girls and young boys, and I'm so glad that it's changed, and now there's more opportunity for young girls in particular, because so many lives were sort of stymied and shortened because they had no opportunity to learn math and science. I've got a question for Josh. We were talking about technology, and particularly we were talking about how things have changed in regard to transportation. When I was growing up, my family, we didn't have a car, but now, as everybody knows, many people have cars, and also there's now electric vehicles. So Josh and I were talking about that, and I think the question for Josh is, what changes have you noticed even in your life in regard to transportation?
I've noticed that they've obviously become more electric fueled to prevent like global warming, and also that the cars have become way more advanced since then, because the more earlier ones were a lot more simpler designs compared to the more advanced ones by bigger companies, and that they're trying to prevent the global warming, of course, by switching to electricity-made cars instead of gas-fueled ones. And I have another question for you, being, how were you taught, or what were you taught in school?
As I told you earlier, I don't remember being taught much of anything at all. So I regret the teachers here won't want to hear that, but I don't remember learning anything, which is ironic because I went to Central, then Vic High. After that, I traveled for years. Then I found out about education, and I was blown away. So I went to University in Montreal, and then I got a scholarship to Oxford. So I actually have a doctorate from Oxford. So the schooling I got, unfortunately, served me no purpose. So there you go. A story of success without good education in the early years.
My name is Mary, and I'm talking to Sebastian. And one of the first questions I asked Sebastian, because it wasn't there for me, was how school was arranged with all the computers, and were students taught how to use computers safely? Because as old people, we hear about young people being taken advantage of by bad actors on the computers.
Well, yeah, ever since grade 3, we were using computers, and we were given typing lessons and taught safely about how to use them. And even today, like, people still do take advantage of other people. So we gotta make sure to stay safe. And my question for you, Mary, is do you have a favorite author for reading?
I've always liked Margaret Atwood, even though some of her books depress me. But I feel that she looks at the world the way it is turning out, and so that interests me.
Okay, so from our peanut gallery, as they say, are there any comments, anything anybody wants to say about some of the stuff that you've been hearing?
What scares you most about the future?
The question there was, what do you fear the most about the future?
AI.
Why?
Because it's like taking over people's jobs, and some people are just not going to be able to make money, and then there will be more people on the street not able to have shelter.
Well, personally, I believe I have a big responsibility on my shoulders, and I feel that I have to keep up to that responsibility. So something I fear is if I mess up, people are going to look down on me in a poor way.
About the future, what I'm like most scared of, on my mom's side, me and my brother are like the only children, so we have like no cousins, and if something happens to us, then like our family is gonna be like over. So like that's like what I'm scared of. Yeah.
So, second question.
Matthew, what are your university and career goals?
I'm not yet sure for now, but for university, I probably want to take maybe business. And my question for you is, Can you describe a regular school day from when you were in school?
Okay, we lived about 3 miles from school. Every day we walked, and I lived in southern Ontario, so we had winter and white stuff. We also had a dress code, like Charlie said, and we couldn't wear jeans or pants. We had to wear skirts. So walking to school was a challenge. We had to wear pants and snow pants under and undress at school. We went to school. We had a homeroom teacher who taught us everything. So what we learned from homeroom was math, social studies, geography, English. We didn't take French. We didn't take any, we could take home ec or shop, but the girls couldn't take shop and the boys couldn't take home ec. We had music and art, and for those subjects and gym, we did rotate, but for most of the time we stayed in homeroom. We ate our lunch in our classroom and then went outside for a brief break. We had one recess break, which consisted, since we were maturing and hormones were raging, we really just ran around, and the boys pulled the girls' bra straps, and that was the most excitement we had at recess. So we had no computers, no cell phones. We didn't have adding machines or calculators or anything like that. A day at school consisted of a lot of drills, math drills, multiplication tables, spelling bees, competition. There was a lot of competition and expectations. We liked most of our teachers, but we also laughed and made fun of them. And they always seemed to be something to laugh about with your teachers. And I remember most of them. I still actually have 3 friends that I still see today that I knew in grade 8. So, yeah, that was about our day, and we would go home. Sometimes we would go to friends' houses, but for the most part, we would be home in the evening, have dinner with our family, watch TV with our family, the very few TV programs we had. And I was really pleased to hear that you also have dinner with your family and sit down and watch TV with your family.
When you said there was drills, I thought you meant like every single day you had to do like a fire drill, earthquake drill.
Oh, no.
And I was like, how dangerous is your school? Yeah, do you have any questions for me?
Well, you know, we did have earthquake drills, and we did have bomb drills, because at that time there was we were building bomb shelters and stuff, so we had drills for emergencies, but most of them were educational. We learned math and English mostly, I think.
Okay, so my question for you is, if you were to relive your teenage life, would you do it? Why?
Would I do it? Yeah, I'd like to relive my teenage years. There's things I'd do over again that I would probably do differently. I didn't work as hard as I could have, and I think I'd try a little more now. I enjoyed those years, but I had lots of friends, and we played, and we came home after school and played softball in the street. We played hockey in the street when it was winter, although we played hockey all the time because we used roller skates. We didn't have to come inside until the street lights came on. Our parents really didn't know where we were. We wandered for miles around Victoria. I remember once on a Saturday, a bunch of us got together and we biked all the way out to Millstream, which is where Costco is, in that general area. And it was all country out there. There was no houses out there in those days. So, yeah, I went off track, didn't I? But I enjoyed school and I enjoyed my teenage years. So I'll ask you what you plan to do with your future, Keisha.
I want to study hard so like I can be rich and stuff, you know. and I want to be successful.
What do you want to be successful at?
I have no idea.
Everything. Isaiah, one thing when we were talking, a big difference from my school years and your school years was the amount of time we had for lunch. I remember we had close to an hour for lunch, and you're saying you had 15 minutes to eat your lunch. So graduating grade 8, if you could change something in your school, what would you look at changing?
If I could change something in my school, I'd probably change when it starts and ends. I think it'd be pretty cool to have like a couple days a week where it's like night school kind of thing, like school at night. It'd be kind of cool. And yeah, that's probably what I'd change. And longer eating time, because I like to eat my food and enjoy it. And what was your first job?
Oh, good question. My first job, I started at 14, and I took the bus from the suburbs of Ottawa to downtown Ottawa, and I spent my Saturdays and Sundays sweeping an underground parking lot, the dirt from the underground parking lot. So yeah, that was my first job. My pay was probably $3.25 an hour. That's what I got.
Eddie, I keep reading about, hearing about the increasing loneliness among young people, that they don't have much, and they spend a lot of their time on screen, and they're alone, they have fewer friends than before. Have you been part of this? Have you noticed this thing? Because it's something that's rampant now, that's being described all over the place among the younger generation as compared to us old folks.
I actually don't use my phone or I'm looking at the screen too much time, because when I'm looking at the phone, like for me, I'm looking for something that want to show me nothing about school or something like that. And I'm just using my phone sometimes to play some games with my friend, or maybe for call my family, my parents, or for see some things for the school. And for me, much better is for reading a book, studying, or just going around my house or riding my bike. And my question is, can you describe your school?
The particular school when I was in grade 8, because I've been to many different schools. It was a learning experience for me because I had moved from Canada to the United States at that time, Southern California. This was in the 1950s, so it was quite a long time ago. And it took me a period of adjustment. It was very, very difficult to be able to adjust to the situation. The teaching was different. The whole climate was different. I'm talking about the teaching climate, the learning climate. The schools were different. And it took some adjustment on my part. I was also put into a younger grade. I mean, I was put into, my age was younger because I skipped a year as a result of coming from Canada, where I had a better education, to Southern California. So I skipped a grade, and I was, I felt all the time younger than the other students and at some disadvantage socially, especially with the girls. I had a hell of a time dealing with girls, and I was always frustrated because I wasn't able to. They always seemed so much more mature than I. Those were at the same age as I. So that was a real period of adjustment for me. So that was a real challenge.
So Mary, since you lived in a small village, how was getting to school?
Yes, I lived in a village of about 600 people, and from my home it was only 2 blocks. So of course we always were able to walk to and from school. We even came home at lunchtime, and my mother made the main meal at lunchtime. So the person over there who isn't getting much time to eat, we had our dinner at noon hour, and the whole family gathered at noon hour to have dinner together. So, Sebastian, I was just wondering about some of the things you like to do in your spare time.
Well, I have 2 siblings myself, so I spend a lot of time hanging out with my siblings, if that's like playing at the park or playing games with them, video games or board games. And then I have a cat myself, so I spend some good time hanging out with my cat. Yeah, and I'm big into tennis. Not a huge sports person, but if I had to choose one sport that I like, it would be tennis. My grandparents are pretty good at it, and they've gotten me into it. So, yeah, that's all.
Okay, I would like to ask you, what technology was available back then, if there was any?
Well, I'm sure there was various types of technology, but for me personally, there was almost no technology. For instance, there was no cell phone. We, in my house, we had no television. My parents didn't approve of it. So once a week, I could go off to visit a friend to watch one program. We didn't have a car. We walked a lot. So yeah, no, thinking back, I can't think of any technology at all. We had a telephone. But other than that, we didn't have much. We had, can't think of anything. Well, I guess a stove that worked. But compared to today I have a cell phone, which I enjoy. I have a television, which I enjoy. I don't have a car, but I did have a car. And so I really enjoy technology, but it's been a major change. Technology has changed my life as it's changed so many other people. Oh yeah, I got a question for Josh. Just put my glasses on and see what it is. Yeah, we were talking, an interesting conversation about how Josh was curious how it was when I was growing up. And as I said, it was quite different from his growing up. But I would like to know Josh's opinion about how things have improved since when I had nothing to today when he uses technology a lot. So that's the question for Josh.
I definitely think that it's a lot more things to do today because it's advanced a lot, especially with technology, and that it'll still may be a bit easier to like learn subjects in school because you have like the technology and search engines to just look up whatever you wanted or it can help you.
So Margaret, I heard you're like 104. If you could, or if you wanted to, would you relive those all 104 years?
Yes, I had a wonderful life, I went from poverty to training as a bookkeeper. I joined the Army when I was 21. I did more wonderful bookkeeping when I was in the Army. I did not marry till I was 50 years of age. I went through life earning, taking care of myself. My family had all passed away. And I took care of myself because of my bookkeeping knowledge. And I've had a happy life, and I wrote this down. I got a great kick out of calligraphy, and here at New Horizons, I used to come to classes to study calligraphy one evening a week. And I enjoyed painting also. And I have a sort of a note that Bob and Bill, my brothers, when they went to work in the Depression era, and they earned $7 a day. Working in a department store, opening boxes of items and delivering the items to the proper floor, like shoe floor, etc. I'd like you to know that in the Depression area, bread was 10 cents a loaf. I call myself a survivor, and I did a lot of volunteer work. I was a bookkeeper, I worked for oil companies, for 3 big oil companies, but then like my volunteer work was always in hospitals. And so I did volunteer work, and I would advise any young person, don't waste your time. Go somewhere and volunteer. Give your time and knowledge and friendship and kindness to somebody as a volunteer all your life. At New Horizons, I've been in the handicraft group for years, and I was a sales lady whenever there was a sale, right up to last year when I was 103. I was still selling, like I was still volunteering. And so until your body and mind tell you, I'm 100% for volunteer work aside from your job. Well, I love music. Do you take any lessons, like piano lessons or violin, or are you in a singing group?
I used to play viola in grade 5. I don't play anymore. I do want to get into singing because I believe people have told me I'm pretty good.
Do you play soccer?
I play a lot of soccer. I usually play roughly 4 to 5 times a week, training by myself or with my actual club. And then my question for you, Ed, is what were your first couple jobs like after high school?
My first job after high school was in a sawmill about 40 miles outside of my hometown. I did not have a car. I did not have a ride in. So after the first month out in the sawmill, there wasn't much there other than the sawmill, a little coffee shop that closed at 6 o'clock and then darkness. So after a month out there, I went back home and never went back to the sawmill. After that, I started working in a department store, Kmart. Some people might be familiar with the name. And I did that for a number of years before I actually decided to join the military.
How was your life? What did you do when you were young?
Well, I lived for a while in near Vancouver in Richmond when I was young. And we used to like to go to the movies, and that was partly because TV was pretty crappy in those days. It was black and white and grainy pictures, but it was an experience to go to a real movie and see the good sound system and picture. So we took the bus. It was quite a hike in those days into downtown Vancouver, and these days I don't think they'd ever let 10-year-olds do that on their own and come back at 11 at night, but it was different days. And we also lived right beside Vancouver Airport, and in those days security was a complete afterthought. So I used to just walk over to the airport and walk out to the runway and watch planes take off and come in, and nobody thought anything of it. And the usual stuff, I guess. I collected comics, Superman, Batman, and played marbles and that sort of thing. Rode a bike. So yeah, it was different times. I'd seemed a bit looser and less concern about disaster, I think, for some reason. But although it wasn't exactly worry-free times, it was the Cold War, and we lived on an Air Force base, and they tested the air raid sirens from time to time, which was kind of ominous. The Air Force put on a movie for us every Friday night, and they really knew their audience, because there was usually a grisly horror or science fiction with lots of blood, so they knew who was coming. So anyway, that was me in those days. Yeah, I have a question. I'm wondering, Victoria, about your concerns for the future. You mentioned wanting to be a doctor, and these days I know it's very tough for young people to choose where to go in university and look for a job, because things are changing so fast with AI and changes in technology, and it can be terrible if you make the wrong choice. So I wonder what the concerns you have. Will you think you'll make it through medical school, or will it be something else? How do you feel about the changing future for you?
I think I'd say having a job, because I want to be a doctor, but I know it's going to be hard, but it's okay, because I want to help people and be successful, and especially to help my parents.
You mentioned speaking German. I was wondering how you learned to speak German.
Well, yeah, it's a long story, which I'll try and make longer. I have something in common with the young lad there. Hello, disculpe, habla español? ¿Eres de Cuba? Sí, muy bien, muy bien. Tengo algo en común contigo. This gentleman was born behind the Iron Curtain, so to speak, in communism. You were born in Cuba. Yeah. Well, I was born behind the Iron Curtain too. I was born in what used to be East Germany. I was born shortly after. Well, the war was still going on at the time. But eventually, my mother and I escaped through the border. I still remember seeing the Russian guards and so on off in the distance. My grandfather paid off someone to smuggle us across the border, and that's how I ended up in Stuttgart. And we immigrated in 1954 from Stuttgart, arrived in Canada. I didn't speak one word of English. And the interesting thing was, in those days, when you came from somewhere else into the school system, they did one thing with you. They put you at the back of the class. and you sat there until that magic moment when you learned how to speak English. Okay. Like there was no ESL classes or anything of the sort. Just sit there, and eventually, like a child, no one gives a child instructions on how to speak English. They just soak it up. It's a great way to do it. Some early memories, again, going back to Cuba, was being in public school. I was in Windsor, Ontario at the time. And I remember a moment when the teacher actually gave us instructions to hide under the desks, okay? Like the whole class were instructed to get under the desk because of the Cuban Missile Crisis with Russia at the time. That was, something that stuck with me for a long time. So yeah, so that's how I learned German, because I was born there. Good question. Now, with respect to yourself, you seem like a well-rounded young man, much more well-rounded than most people at your age. But sports and music seems to play an important part in your life. Can you tell us about what you do in sports and how that helps you in developing an interesting life, and especially the fact that you play three instrumental pieces, right?
Yes. I play club basketball. I think that's good for keeping fit and having something to do. It's like pretty constant in the week. I have at least 4 basketball associated sort of things in my week. So there's that. I play 3 instruments. I don't know if the third one counts. I play saxophone and band. I don't really like it that much. Probably gonna stop. But outside of school, I play guitar and piano. I've been playing piano since I was 5 or 6, and I recently started playing guitar. My piano teacher is a classical piano teacher, so I play mostly classical music. My uncle teaches me guitar, so I really just do whatever. And I don't have a choice for what I play in band. There's a bunch of different arrangements that we've done. It's all fine, I guess. Yeah.
First of all, to the seniors, could somebody explain what a time capsule is?
A time capsule is a box usually with items from whatever time they bury it, put in the cornerstone of a building often, and when the building is demolished, they find it and open it up and find out what happened then. So people would contribute various things to the time capsule. maybe when this building was built in 1983, I think, they might have put a time capsule in it. I don't know. But usually with schools, they do that.
I'd ask the students then to write something they would put in a time capsule.
Okay, so if you guys write down something that you put in a time capsule, you'd put in a time capsule. You don't have to do it right now. You can do it while we're talking. And then that'll be the last thing we do before lunch, right? Is I'll come and get a few of you to tell us what you'd put in a time capsule. A few of you young people, what you'd put in a time capsule for people 50 years in the future.
What were the main things that you would do with your friends?
In grade 8, we still biked a lot because that was transportation and a way to see our friends. We played skip rope. We used to play tin can cricket in the street, roller skating, baseball.
Yates Street, right down from your school, was sort of the entertainment section of Victoria. There were 4 theaters, movie theaters along Yates Street, and 3 bowling alleys, pool halls. So when we got a little older, we'd go down to Yates Street after school and bowl, or we'd go to a movie. They had matinees sometimes. We'd go there on the weekends for Saturday movies. The other thing we did, we go to the Crystal Gardens, which is the Crystal Gardens opposite the Empress Hotel, which actually belonged to the Empress Hotel in those days, and it was a swimming pool. They're talking about taking down the old crystal pool. That was the pool in those days in Victoria, and that's where I learned to swim. And I think a lot of people in Victoria did in those days. Other than that, we hung around in our neighborhood and we played softball in the street. The manhole covers were home plate and the telephone poles were the bases. And we'd play until dark and after sometimes. So we had lots of fun. We played outside a lot.
Since that was kind of a general question, I'm going to let it go for the whole table. What kind of things do you do with your friends after school? Do you go down to the pool halls like Charlie did, or?
We go to the mall. We hang out at each other's houses. We have I have sleepovers a lot. I go to the beach a lot too. I just do random stuff, I guess.
What's your favorite beach?
I forgot the name, but it's the one with the octopus and the pirate ship and stuff. Okay. Yeah. We talk, listen to music, play volleyball and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so when you're hanging out with your friends after school and things, what are you doing?
Mainly just go to each other's houses, maybe go to the movie theaters, lots of stuff, but it's usually planned ahead, so it's not as random. But yeah, sometimes sleepovers, just lots of stuff.
We also go to the mall. We just chill and eat there, or we go to the park. We can just sit down and talk to each other about random stuff and yeah. That's it.
So let's now move to another table and see what comes up here. Somebody want to suggest a table question?
Yeah, in talking with Vince, I realized the influence of parents on students' education and future and so on. Vince, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Both my parents are doctors, so I don't know, that's the thing I've been exposed to the most and probably what I'm thinking I'm going to end up doing.
My parents influenced my future a little bit with my dad's job. He's a real estate agent. He sells houses. I think that'd be fun to do.
What about you, Daryl? What was your parents' influence on you?
Oh, God, that's a good question. Parents were, we were kind of free-range kids, so we kind of did what we wanted to do when we were young. No pressure to go to school or focus on any career or aspirations. They kind of let us figure it out ourselves.
Well, my parents showed me to make control my decisions. They tell me to I need to help to another people, and make sense to what is he telling me, when is he trying to help me. They don't do it for a bad thing he did. She's telling me to do good things.
Marty, what did your parents tell you to do when you were growing up? Did they set you on your career path, or did they have no expectations?
No, they did have expectations for me, and as a result of especially my mother. My mother was less educated than my father, but she had a much greater influence on me anyway. She lived to the old age of 107. So my father died in his 50s, so he heart attack, and he drank like, well, anyway, I won't go into that. But my mother was very influential on me, and she got me to go to Harvard from an undergraduate degree, and she was very pressured on me to do that, and was very influential. And she saw that she really changed my whole life around. Lived growing up in California in the city of Long Beach, had nothing to do with going back east, and here I suddenly go back and spend 4 years at Harvard dealing with all of these really sophisticated types from private schools, and here I was, a rube coming out of California. So she had a great influence.
Influence of my parents, like Germanic background, so obviously it was a very strict upbringing. And I was also, I would say, handicapped by a very religious upbringing where there were a lot of do's and don'ts, mostly don'ts. So I was kind of stymied in my upbringing until I sort of had a declaration of liberty, and when I was about 21 or so.
Okay. Oh, and I'd like to give some credit due where credit should. Could you stand up and you two stand up just for a sec? Yeah. I want to thank these three girls for suggesting that we do the group table. It wasn't my smarts. It was their smarts, and I think that's working out pretty good. So thank you.
Graduating out of grade 8, the vast majority, 90% of those students would wind up in the same high school, going to the same classes. Whereas with Victoria, from what I understand, with basketball, soccer, lacrosse, there's a hockey academy I hear. Is the class going to spread across the city?
I'm probably going to end up going to maybe more of a soccer school, so I'll probably not get anyone in my class, but maybe people that are in my on my soccer team and in parts of the club.
When you go to a different school, and most of those people won't follow you there, will you miss the friendships you've made?
Yeah, probably hanging out with all my other friends every day and stuff.
Well, I have a question. I'm wondering, because when I went to school, a lot of the courses we took just didn't seem to be very relevant. Now, in some cases, I found out later in life that they definitely were. But I'm wondering what you think. Which courses do you take are really relevant? You feel you're going to use them in your later life and work? And others do you think are just a bit of a frill or padding put in there that you don't really like or want?
I don't want to take math. It's kind of hard and stuff because I don't really like math and stuff. I really like science because it's easier for me, and I think it's really fun to learn science.
Science involves a lot of math, right?
Yeah, but science is more fun than math.
My table question is, do you have a favorite genre of music?
I like sort of soft classical or light classical. Well, I like most types of music. My favorite type of music is jazz. There's a really good club in Victoria called Herman's, and it's a great club. It's for all ages, and what it is, every night they have jazz, rather saxophone, sometimes a group, but it's really fun. They're going to be closing for 2 months or so in the summer because of finances, but they're going to start up again in September, and it's a great place to go, and I highly encourage everybody to go there and enjoy a great night out?
I don't really have a favorite type of music because I'm not a big music listener. I mainly just listen to whatever's on the radio or what's playing. So I mainly just listen to whatever's on. Well, I can respect all genres of music. I'm a huge softie for jazz because my father played the saxophone. But personally, I enjoy classical rock. So AC/DC, Metallica, all those people. And I listen to my music via Spotify.
Okay, so we're just about to wrap up and go have lunch, but the question was, what would one of you now put in a time capsule for somebody else to find in 50 years?
My favorite book on my bike. I have a lot of favorite books, and I actually don't see the name, I'm just read it. I just like to read sometimes, and that's it.
Photos of people.
Who?
And yourself. Take a photo of yourself and put it in a time capsule. Or photos of places. Well, for starters, I would put the date and most likely various things that were important to me. So a tennis racket, because I'm big into tennis. A pool cue, I enjoy playing pool. Pieces of candy, because nobody hates sweets. And a picture of a tree. Now, the tree is important to me because it's where I first broke my first. It's where I broke my first bone, and it personally woke me up to realizing how dangerous the world is. Because as humans, we believe that we can do anything or that we're invincible.
Okay, so we are going to break for lunch, but since you guys are all strong and young, could you stack up the chairs for us? And we're going to go through underneath the exit sign. And there'll be some lunch and a chance to chat. After 3 rounds of questions and answers, the students and seniors were treated to a sandwich lunch where the seniors and the youth could talk and meet informally. I must share the observation that the cookie tray emptied faster than the fruit tray. This program would not have been possible without the support and active participation of Central Middle School and Principal Tina Perrick and James Bay New Horizons Executive Director Kim Dixon. Central Middle School and their teacher Julie took care of all the details when it came to organizing the youth. Kim and Sherry Dixon and the volunteers at JBNH took care of ordering and serving coffee, tea, juice, and they took care of the lunch details. Community makes us strong and makes things happen. Passport to Joy and Connection is a program of the Creating Community Wellness Society in Victoria, British Columbia. The musical theme today was Feeling Good by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com and was used under the Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license.